Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev. I almost forgot what this thing is called. So yeah, welcome everybody. It's good to be back. It's been a while, hasn't it? I think the last Hands on SAP Dev episodes that we had together were in August. So yeah, I'm not sure what. Well, I was going to say I'm not sure what happened there. I was away for an operation in early September, so I sort of thought, I can't really work then. I had some time off, and then in September, of course, we had the final prep for Devtoberfest. Then it was Devtoberfest, and of course, it wasn't appropriate really to do a live stream every Friday because we had so many videos and so much content coming out already. And then, of course, it was the run for TechEd and the prep for TechEd, and yeah, so here we are. So welcome. Good morning to Mark and Helmut and Igor and Marianne and Hussein and A apostrophe. Is that A apostrophe P in Dusseldorf? And Visas. Good morning. Welcome everybody. It's nice to be back. I'm so out of practice that it took me far longer than expected to get this sort of green screen chroma key thing working. I've got a lamp here, I've got the lamp there, it's just all chaos and everything, but hopefully we should be okay. So yeah, we're going to spend a normal hour, and as the title says, we're going to start exploring a super interesting, super exciting, super new as of SAP TechEd. Was it last week? Yeah, last week. Project, open source project on GitHub. It's called the BTP Service Metadata. I don't know how many of you already watched or rewatched the developer download, which was like at the end of day one at SAP TechEd. We had a great opportunity. All the developer advocates had a brilliant opportunity. Some of us worked with and presented with Jürgen on stage at the keynote, and then all of us were on stage in the afternoon, which was sort of nighttime in evening and nighttime most of the world, to be honest. So you might not have seen it. On the stage talking about different things. And one of the things that I got the honour of talking about was the BTP Service Metadata project, which is sort of like a brother or a sister project to the BTP Setup Automator project. Okay, also from the same wonderful set of people, also open source and also on GitHub. Okay, and in the developer download, I did a bit of a show and tell on the BTP Setup Automator and the BTP Service Metadata. But there's so much goodness to dig into. I thought it'd be worth spending at least one, maybe two, that's why I put part one up there, maybe two sessions taking a gentle look together at the BTP Service Metadata. Ronnie, good morning, good morning. Now Ronnie is one of those wonderful people, you're all wonderful, but Ronnie's one of those wonderful people who has in the past, and also very recently, produced some swag for Hands on SAP Dev. Now, I've got them here ready to show you. Let me show you, and we've done this before, and I'll do it again. If you want me to send you some stuff, and this is just me sending stuff through the post, it's not any sort of SAP official thing, send me a direct message, DM, a private message on Twitter. That's probably the easiest way, isn't it? My Twitter DMs are open. With your name and postal address where I should send them to, and if the postal address, I'm a bit stupid, so make sure you put some new lines where the new lines should be when I write it on the envelope, okay? So because sometimes I can't figure out what the addresses are. So I've got, as usual, I've got the developers.sap.com stickers. These are all ace for your laptop. I also have got plenty of those. So I can send you some of those, and if you want some of those to sort of share out as well, I can send you a small handful, let's say. I've got the original and maybe best, I don't know, original and best. Good morning, Ulrich. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So Ulrich, in Frankfurt. By the way, I'm looking down there. I've got my Pixel book Good morning, Carlos, as well, in London, just down south in London. Is it raining in London? It's been absolutely chucking it down here in Manchester. I've got the original best hands-on SAP dev laptop stickers, vintage, you might call them. So I've got a few more of these. So if you want one or two of these, let me know. I've also got some absolutely awesome, I think, Ronnie, let me know, when did you create these? These are amazing stickers. And it's an Apple 3. It's not a Lisa, is it? It's an Apple 3, quite rare. And on the screen it says, line 10, learn, line 20, share, line 30, grow, line 40, go to 10, right? And this was from a presentation from SAP Inside Track Oslo that Ronnie and his friend organised, which was an awesome inside track. And at the bottom it says, hands on SAP Dev, that's a sticker. Awesome sticker, shiny, shiny. It's like getting a shiny card in Magic the Gathering in your pack, isn't it? But then, and these are super awesome, and these were waiting for me when I came back from Las Vegas, in TechEd in Las Vegas. Magnets, same thing there, and it's wonderful. So let me know if any of these appeal to you, if you want me to send you any of these. I've got, various quantities of them. The magnets are quite rare. But yeah, let me know. Send me a direct message at QMacro on Twitter, and I can post them to you. Like I say, this is not any SAP official thing. I'm doing this as me. So yeah, I'll just send them in post. Anyway, without further ado, and good morning, Antonio from Porto in Portugal. The original, Ronnie says the originals were for SAP TechEd 2019. I guess the holograms were last year. So yes, the holograms were last year. Amazing holograms. So let me know. I've also got 3 of these awesome UI5. Well, we call them buttons in America, didn't they? Badges, I had to call them. I don't know. Anyway, metal, produced by none other than Tom Young and his family with a badge making thing. So I've got 3 of those. So if you want a badge, let me know. Okay, let's get going. Let's go into the main scene. Okay, let me start sharing or showing you what this is all about. So as usual, I don't know, we've got SAP have a number of organizations on GitHub. SAP Samples is one of them. This is where the BTP Service Metadata is, right? I think Rui and co released it, made it public during TechEd, and there's a blog post as well. Is there a blog? Did Rui link to the blog post? I can't remember. Rui, we should link to the blog post really. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, let me explain. So the BTP Service Metadata is data about all the services, all the resources. So services, these names are quite difficult, right? It's always difficult to find the right name. A service just think of resources. So resources, you might have applications that you can subscribe to on SAP BTP. You might have services that you can create instances of on SAP BTP, right? Same sort of thing in this context, right? So we have BTP Service Metadata, which is data about all these different resources, okay? You've got all sorts of sort of stuff in here, but the most important, most exciting, the meat of the repo is in this V0, okay, version 0, and eventually what the team want to do is generate metadata for the consumption by different personae. Okay, that's Latin plural for persona, of course, for different personas. And we're starting out with the developer persona. We'll look at the inventory file shortly, but in the developer directory, there is a JSON file for every single resource on SAP BTP. So for all the applications to which you can subscribe and all the services, okay? Regardless of whether that service runs on Kyma or Kubernetes or BTP in general, it's all there. Now, we'll start taking a look at one or two of these files, and then we'll start playing around because, I don't know about you, let me know in the comments, what you might want to do. I think, in fact, let me find siteblogs.sap.com BTP Service Metadata Rui. There we go. Da-da-da. Thank you, Google. SAP BTP Service Metadata now available on GitHub. Okay, there it is. And there's our friend Rui. And yeah, this describes everything. Let me just plonk that in there. There we go. Let me plonk that in. That describes everything about this service metadata. And we're going to look at one of the examples in a minute. Why did I want to go here? Oh yes, because Mauricio Laufer has already started using it. Okay, Mauricio Laufer has already sort of started using some of the data in the service metadata JSON files in a project. So well done, Mauricio. So let me know what you might use it for. Okay, so I've got some examples. And I want to work through some of these examples over the course of this live stream and maybe next Fridays as well. Okay. So let's start. Well, actually, let's just dive in. Let's let the dog see the rabbit, as they say. I'm going to pick that up because it's a really some sort of is that some sort of niche language I've heard of? Quite strange, maybe. I don't know. Let's have a look. Anyway, no, ABAP, of course. ABAP is awesome. In fact, let me look at the raw because all right, the GitHub sort of display is nice, but if we look at raw, I've got a nice JSON sort of formatter tool. What's it called? JSON viewer. Okay, which allows me to sort of collapse and expand and everything. So if we have a quick look here, we have, and this is the same pattern for every JSON file there. Okay, so for every single JSON file in the /v0/developer directory, you have the same pattern. And in fact, what Mauricio was doing, I think, was taking some icons, right? Let's extract all service details and their icons. Okay, so here's the icon for ABAP. Okay, in fact, let's just open that up. What is it? Woo, whoa, that's big. Yeah, okay, cool. So there's an SVG of the ABAP icon, quite cool. And we have the name of the resource. I'm going to use the word resource because service, is slightly overloaded here. A longer name, and this is well, this reminds me. Okay, so this sort of comma, pokes me in the eye a little bit, jumps out of the page, and reminds me that the service where is the service metadata coming from? The service metadata is coming from all sorts of different, multiple sources inside of SAP. And we have the official name for each of these services being pulled from the official name repository inside of SAP, along with all sorts of other different bits and pieces. Okay, so that reminds me to tell you that, yeah, we've got different sources. So that's the official name, SAP BTP, ABAP environment. We all like commas in our names. And a description as well, also coming from somewhere, I don't know where. We have an icon. And then we have two really important sort of arrays. We've got a links array, and this is a series of URLs pointing to documentation, discussion, Q&A, tutorials, all about that particular resource, all about particular, app. So even if you use this for nothing other than finding out, information about a given particular resource, great. Okay, so we've got community.sap.com. There's a topic URL on SAP community. There is a link to the tutorial navigator, which we all know and love. In fact, let me just follow that link there to the tutorial navigator with some BTP ABAP environment filter already pre-filled in the URL, so we can get all that stuff there, etc., etc. Everything you can imagine. Oh, here we go. We've got some ABAP APIs on the API Business Hub. So let's go there. API Business Hub, and we've got the BTP ABAP environment, and we've got a list of there's a business user API, Git repository, all that sort of stuff, right? So we've got all sorts of different things. So it's not just tutorials and documentation. It's links to all sorts of things. Okay, so far so good. We've got that, and then we've also got service plans. Let me just collapse. Can I collapse these? No, I have to collapse them sort of individually, right? There are lots of service plans. There we go. So we have a list of service plans. Okay, this is just a, hey, Raphael, welcome in. So as you can see, each of the service plan objects has 9 properties, and the 9 properties are name, display name, category, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we have the name of the service plan. So these are the plans. So the service plan is obviously relevant for a service. I use the word plan, but service plan here, why not? And so this is the name of the plan. That's the display name. What sort of category this is. Really think of the category as belonging to the parent. So the ABAP is the service, right? This plan should not be used anymore as it will be soon removed. These use plans. Let's go to the next plan then. Let's have a look. ABAP compute. All right, that'll do it. ABAP compute units, fine. Okay, so we have all sorts of information about whether it's free. I don't know why it's null there. I mean, this is still very early days here. Let's just have a look. We do have other things here. There we go. There is free, true, right? So we've got a free plan for ABAP, free plan for small proof of concept projects with limited number of repositories. Anyway, this is not any sort of selling. I'm not trying to sell you ABAP and free plans and everything. This is more about the data. Okay, so you've got a couple of Boolean properties here, but maybe most interestingly, that word, you've got a list of, for this particular service plan, where is this free service plan available, which data centers? And you've got a list, in this case, of 8 data centers. You've also got a schema, optionally, that describes this thing here, okay? But anyway, let's go into schemas maybe another time. Good morning, Lawrence. Morning all. Let's see what the session will bring. Yes, I would like to see what the session will bring as well. I've got my coffee. So this is general idea. What else have we got? We've got the service plans, and we've also got the support components. Okay, so why do I think of Gregor Wolf when I think of it? Gregor's always like raising some amazing tickets and everything. So it's always nice to know what support component the resource relates to. Okay, so if you in OSS, or what do we call it these days? No, is it still called OSS? I don't know. Anyway, support component, very interesting. And as time goes along, there may be other information, other metadata added to this thing. So that's generally, it as far as, what shape and size and color each of the service metadata files look like. We've also got, let's go back here into developer, into V0. At the same level as the developer directory, we have an inventory, which is basically like a table of contents. Okay, so let's have a look at the inventory. And basically for every, stop saying basically, DJ, for every file in the developer directory, we have a little object here. So there's ABAP solution, ABAP cloud platform, web router and everything. So this is quite a nice summary. And in fact, maybe we'll start out by having a play around with what we can glean from this sort of metadata. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, so answer in the chat, please. I would love to know, and also I think it'd be interesting to find out from each other as well. Given a lump of JSON, given a set of JSON files, for example, what would you use to explore that JSON, to pull data out, to filter and select and to chop and change that JSON data? What would you use? The reason I ask, and put your answers in the chat, there's no wrong answers, by the way. The reason I ask is because we thought it would be quite helpful to provide some examples of how you might go about exploring this JSON data and making it useful. By the way, let me just flip back to here. One of the things is in here. Let me just open up a new thing here. What's it called? Automator. Which one was it? It was that one. Let me have a quick look. I don't know why my file manager is suddenly doing that, but anyway. Oh, option to copy files, unexpected option. No idea. Anyway, but in here, where was it? Was it in here, or was it somewhere else? Oh no, it wasn't. It was in metadata, in my metadata, service metadata, that I was using to prepare for the developer download. There we go. Yes, in here, I've got an example, and I'll just run this. And maybe if you want to dig into this one, we can do this one next week. But basically, what I was going to show in the developer download, but didn't have time, was an example of generating documentation. Okay, I think somewhere, and if Rui is on, or Christian, or Ulrich, or Marcus, remind me where it is. But somewhere in some of the resources, there's an example of generating documentation. Maybe it's not made it to the public repo yet, but here's an example. So if I show you this here, we've got a little script, which will generate a simple Markdown document based upon all of the services that have got free plans. Okay, so I'm going to filter, and I just want to I'm going to show you this. I'm not going to dig into how this works yet. We're going to do it start simple, right? But for example, we've got a little filter here which will generate some JSON from the metadata JSON. And the reason I'm generating JSON from JSON is because this particular JSON, as you might be able to sort of guess here, is sort of HTML JSON. So it's a specific sort of format of JSON, or a convention that then a little utility called JSON to Markdown can use to process. Okay, so what it will do is we'll take some JSON with headings like H1, H2, H3 and paragraphs and whatever, and generate Markdown. So let's run that. So what we've got is, let me have a look here. If we run that, or let's just have a look what we're going to do, right? What we're going to do is we're going to use JQ, and we'll dig into what JQ is as well. This is maybe putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but we're going to use JQ to run a filter over all the files in the metadata directory. So that's over all those abap.json and abap.cp webrouter.json and xsua.json and all those different things. Basically all these, where are they? These files here, v0 developer, run it over all those files, slurp them all in together. -s is slurp, suck in all the files, run that filter, and then pass the output to JSON to Markdown, which is a little bit of JavaScript, which will use the JSON to Markdown standard npm module, which will then create Markdown. We'll put it in the free plans. In fact, why don't we do this? Let's just do this. JQ slurp, in fact, free.jq slurp in. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go into the gen.docu thing. JQ free. We want to slurp in all of the. Where is it? v0 developer star.json. In fact, let me show you where we are. Right? Reset that whole thing. List v0 developer. That's all those files. Okay, so we're going to slurp in all those. So JQ free.jq slurp in all those JSON files. And what that will do is it will produce basically a series of, a flat list of little objects with, bits of HTML, H3, a paragraph, H3, and a paragraph, as a result of filtering out basically all the service plans where isFree is true. Okay, again, don't worry about how the JQ works, but then we can pass that into JSON to Markdown. Okay, and that'll generate Markdown, which is really nice. I thought, how might you generate Markdown documentation in general from a set of JSON files that have been maybe filtered? Do it this way. In fact, this is still on my machine only, so if you're interested, I'll add this to the metadata explorations. Let me just go through the metadata explorations shortly. But then we can actually, pipe that into Glow, for example, which is my favorite Markdown viewer. There we go, Glow -p actually, so with paging. So we can see SAP BTP service plans with services with free plans. We've got an ABAP solution that's got a free plan. The plan's called that. ABAP solution, blah, 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 etc. Right? So that's one way. Now, let's go back to the metadata exploration. Am I explaining this very well? I feel as though I'm sort of, all over the shop at the moment. Let me know. Is this making sense, by the way? Let me know in the chat. Maybe you've all gone off to make a cup of tea because this is, not comprehensible. But let me know. If anything, this thing here, let me go to the, paste that in. This is what you want to go and have a look at this weekend, if you have the inclination. It's just a set of explorations, and we talk about different languages you might want to use to parse and explore that JSON metadata. It's got kind of coffee's made me quite warm. I'm going to take my amazing recap conference jacket off. There we go, that's better. Put it down there. And yeah, we talk about JQ, which is what my power tool of choice for exploring and filtering and manipulating JSON. But we've also got links for you to other tools like Gron, which is a bit like grep for JSON. FX, which is, I think we've used FX before, very briefly on hands-on SB Dev, as well as JQ, of course, and there's also JLS, right? All these tools, in fact, maybe we'll do this. All these tools are actually available. If you don't want to install them all, you can try them out because they're also available in the brother or sister project BTP Setup Automator. In fact, have I got a different thing? No, let me just open up a new window here. And Docker image list. I've got the BTP Setup Automator. Let's go to the BTP Setup Automator. And the BTP Setup Automator has a package, BTP Setup Automator. And that is, as we saw, in fact, let's go back here. That is, woohoo, there's Ruby, woohoo. That is a container image that contains all sorts of tools, including JQ and IJQ. So if you want to sort of start exploring with JQ, don't want to be bothered to install JQ, whatever. Let's do that. Use the BTP Setup Automator. So that has a container image on the GitHub container registry. I've already pulled it. Docker pull. In fact, pull that latest. Let's cut there. There we go. Using default tag latest. I think it's already pulled. Docker image list. There it is. So if I say Docker run, remove it at the end. Interactive tty ghcr.io SAP samples BTP Setup Automator. Latest is the default tag, right? We get a prompt. We get a shell prompt, and in there as well, this is the setup automator. In there, you get all the tools. You get CF, you get Cube CTL or Cube Control, definitely not Cube Cuddle. Thank you, Josh. And we also get, of course, the wonderful BTP CLI as well. So we get all these tools, pre-installed. You can run them anywhere and everywhere because it's in a container image. But you also have JQ, and you also have, because I stuck it in there, IJQ. So why don't we use this? Or you can use this to start exploring. If I say, let's just go to the service metadata, grab that, git clone there, and then we can go into the BTP service metadata, and IJQ, slurp everything in v0 developer, just slurp everything in, okay? Let's get rid of that for a second. And there we go, we got access to everything. And we could say, for example, how many items, how many objects are there length? There we go, 176. Let's say map name. It's all the names, so you can start exploring without any commitment to installing any tools. This is all sort of free within the container image from BTP Setup Automator. So, these two things work hand in hand as well. So, very interesting, says Raphael. I think it's very interesting. So there we go. If you want to, start playing with this and running these little these metadata explorations, you can use the BTP Setup Automator image, without having to install things. Anyway, right, I've explained that now. Let me go back here. By the way, I also found, when I was looking for the documentation thing, I also found that I'd done another sample. So I'm just going to push that now. Git push set upstream origin Kyma availability. I just added to this repo. There we go. Compare and pull request. Let's have a look. I've just added. Where is it? Create pull request. Ooh, your first time opening a pull request. Okay. So file check. I just added a bit of documentation to the README, to the metadata explorations README, and a little helper file there, which is there, and then also a little bit of a filter to say, Kyma availability. Sometimes it's useful to know where geographically you're set up. So let's just merge it. Okay, shall we merge it? Let's live dangerously. I hope Rui and Christian are not looking. Merge pull request. I've signed the license. Blah blah blah. Okay, let's have the CodeQL run first. Okay, while we're waiting for that to run, let's go back here and let's have a look. Service metadata. Yeah, service metadata. We don't want that. We don't want that. What's that there? No, we don't want that. Okay, let's go back to here. While we're waiting for that to run. So, metadata exploration. Inventory exploration. Here we go. Right. Let's start really simple. Hey, you only live once. Exactly, Raphael. You only live once. So Ronnie says, I have to say, SAP really has their tooling on point at the moment. It's been a wonderful journey to follow over the past years. I love how the future is terminal at SAP and Docker for the win. I agree with you, Ronnie. You're my favourite person right now. You're all my favourite people, of course. So yeah, totally. So why don't we start with this simple inventory.json file, okay? And start gently with JQ, okay? For every example here, we've got a little bit of a paragraph, a filter, and that filter there is, when you actually look at the filter itself, I've added some comments as well, so it sort of explains it, but I'll explain it as we go along. So this is maybe you weren't expecting this, but I'm going to sort of try and give you a gentle introduction to filtering JSON with JQ. If you're not into JQ, we've also added the first example using JavaScript with Node.js. Okay, there's a little bit there to play around with. Okay, so maybe next week you'll do a bit of JavaScript as well. But anyway, embrace open source software and establish tools rather than rolling your own. Exactly, sorry, Ronnie. Exactly. So why don't we try this one? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the inventory.json. God, it's only 8:32. Brilliant. We're going to look at the inventory.json and just get a feel for what that is again. We just had a brief look at it before, but we'll see that there's an object for every sort of resource entry, and you'll notice that each object has a property called category, and the category is one of at least a couple of things: application, service, and maybe something else. I can't remember, but we'll find out. Oh, there we go. Application, environment, of course, environment. And how would we, for example, say, well, show me all the entries, but organize them by category? Okay, and obviously this might help if you just wanted to find out all the environment entries or all the application entries, the applications to which you could then subscribe on SAP BTP. So this is the filter that does it, and I've deliberately, we've deliberately expanded this, with lots of white space. And this is what we're aiming for. Okay, we're aiming for a reformulation of that inventory.json, which is like a flat list of objects, into a slightly more structured thing where we have one object for every different type of category. There's a category service there, and that object contains one property where the property is the actual category name, service, and the value is an array of all the names of the services that, names of the resources that have the category service. Okay, does that make sense? So let's do this slowly. Let me know in the chat, please. Let me know in the chat if you have dabbled in, used JQ before. If you're aware of JQ, let me know what your experience with JQ, because it will help. I'm aware that I don't want to push JQ down anybody's throat, but it's a super powerful, super useful way of exploring JSON, and JSON is everywhere. Okay, like I say, next week we'll explore JSON using JavaScript because we all like JavaScript. But let me know. So Johnny, good morning, Johnny. Johnny says, is it this metadata service name sorry, same as Metadata Explorer in SAP DI. To be honest, I don't know. I think the answer is no, but I don't know what SAP DI is. What are you? Maybe my brain's having a bit of a unusually slow day, but SAP DI, data intelligence. Is that what you mean? If it is, then it's not. No, this is specifically data about all the resources on SAP BTP. You know, at a sort of a higher level. You know, we got the applications to which you can subscribe. You've got the services that you can create instances of with plans. You've got the environments like Cloud Foundry and Kyma. Of course, all the plans that relate to those services as well, and all the regions that those plans are available in for those services. That's the metadata that we're talking about here. Hope that helps. Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so it was data intelligence. So Helmut says, I use JQ, IJQ, and JQP a lot, but not at the level you do. I use it quite at the low level. You know, I'm not an expert by any means. So if anybody can help me out, please do. So let's but actually, that's a really good point from Helmut, right? That's a really good point from Helmut. JQ is super useful at any level. You know, you could even use it just simply to pretty print JSON, which we'll see shortly. But you could also use it just to pull out a few bits and pieces. If you look, for example, at some of the other CLIs, you know, out there in the wild, like the Azure CLI AZ or the GitHub CLI GH, you can specify bits of JQ in a JSON output context to say, give me this in this format and everything. It's really cool. So Ulrich heard about JQ here for the first time. I still live and work in ABAP object-oriented world, moving to CDS and CAP along with clients. Well done, Ulrich. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, brilliant. Okay, so let's go and explore the inventory.json, and then we'll explore this thing here. Okay. So that'll do. Where are we? We don't need that anymore, do we? Where are we there? Let's get rid of that. That's fine. Okay, fine. So BTP Service Metadata. Let's go into the metadata explorations. And we've got here, what was it called? Entries by category. Let's run it first and then start to dig in to see how it works. Entries by category. And that, there we go. So the result is an array of objects where each object is, you know, has one property, application in the first case, and then environment, and then service. There we go, and it's just a list. So how does that work? Let's have a look. Entries by category. Let's have a look at the ignore that warning for now. No, it's too boring to explain. So all we're doing is I'm sourcing this little library here, and all that is you know, declaring a metadata. You know, let's call it a global variable to point to where the metadata files are. Oh, hold on. Yeah, in /v0/developer. Yeah, there we go. That's where all the metadata files are in relation to where we are right here. Let's go back here, and all we're going to do is we're going to run JQ, and that --from file is a bit like -f, but I like to sort of, you know, have the longer forms of the option names when I'm doing scripts, so it's obvious, right? So run the query that's in the file, entries by category.jq, in the inventory directory. By the way, the way I've organized this, let me just show you here. The way we've organized this is that we've got these little runners, like all the ones without a suffix. These are sort of, for example here, free subscription plans. There we go. These are sort of runnable scripts, okay? But then they will refer to JQ query files, and that entries by category there, or in, for example, services here. These are all JQ files. It'll run query filters that are in these directories. Okay, so and the reason why there are two directories is because if you have a look at the service metadata, you will see in the V0 there you've got the inventory file itself, and then you've got all the files in developer. So basically, the relationship is that anything to do with, you know, manipulating and filtering through the inventory file is in the inventory directory, and then everything else is in services. Does that make sense? So Visa says, I am using JQ because DJ showed me in the previous hands-on session how cool it is. It is cool, isn't it? It helps me a lot in my daily work, especially in doing bash stuff. You can come again, Visas. Thank you very much. No, seriously, it is super useful. So all we're doing is running this filter. Let's have a look at that. There we go. Let's go back again, and we're just running it over the inventory file. So let's have a look at the inventory file. Inventory. Let's go to B0. There. Let's have a look at it. So all this is a flat array of objects where with each object, we can see here has got technical ID, display name, description, file name, as in the name of the file in the developer directory, right? And category. And the category is the thing that changes. Category service application, all that sort of stuff there, etc. Right? Have we got environment? There we go. There, environment. There's an example of an environment file, an environment object. So, in fact, why don't we leave that there? Let's just leave it across there and go back to here. Let's have a look at the actual JQ query. So what we're going to do, let's go up to here and go to the top so we can see. We're going to loop over all the entries in the JQ file. So that all the entries, as you can see here, this is basically, when you see a map, it's like mapping over an array. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically map over each of the objects here. Tell you what. Hey, Niels. Welcome. Isn't it funny that ABAP Cloud, ABAP Environment is listed as a service rather than environment? It is. Semantics. It's, yeah, I can't answer that. There is a reason, but I don't know what it is. In that I was told what it was, but I've forgotten. Okay. Well, yes, good, well pointed out, Niels, and welcome as well. Okay, so tell you what. Why don't we do this sort of step by step? Yeah, there we go. Let's open up a new thing, and let's bring in. There we go. We've got this thing here. Let's do it bit by bit. So we're going to first of all run this map. Okay. We'll use IJQ and we'll read in inventory. There we go. So if you're not familiar with IJQ, by the way, for those folks who came in, and you're all welcome to come in whenever you want, of course, who came in sort of after the initial sort of welcome this morning, I've got a load of amazingly cool stuff, mostly from Ronnie. So thank you, Ronnie. So if you want any of these, send me a direct message on Twitter while Twitter's still around. Your name and your sort of postal details, where you want me to post them to, and I'll post them to you. Okay, we've done this before, so let me know. So if we say, for example, what we're going to do is we're going to say map, and then we're going to create a new object. And this really in JQ is just short for, in fact, let's do it, display name category. So if I say map, and then if I say map dot technical ID, right? We can see how that map transforms the JSON on the left, which is the input. I know I'm pointing left and right the wrong way around, but anyway, you know what I mean. It says here at the top, input top, output top, right? And that's my thing. So map is a way of sort of mapping over things in an array, okay? And as the outermost thing is an array here, map will work immediately as we expect. So if we now say map open curly brackets dot let's say if I say name technical ID, that will produce it will do something in the brackets for every item in the array. So it will do something for every object. And what we're doing here is we're constructing an object where with one property, and the property name is name, and the property value is the value of the technical ID property. Your address properties with dots. That's why, by the way, if we open up a thing here, many people will have used the JQ dot, and the dot, people refer to this as pretty printing, which is true. it will pretty print, even if you've got really ugly JSON that's all scrunched together and everything. But the dot is actually the thing that is where you are right now, which is the identity function. Okay, anyway, so the dot is actually the thing where you are now, and then qualified by the technical ID name. What you can do shorthand, and this is what we're doing, is we're saying, in fact, I think we're using display name. Let's use display name, name, display name. But the shorthand, if we wanted display name, whatever it was, right, we could say just, let's put spaces in there, display name, and it will that's shorthand for saying the property name is display name and the property value is the value of the display name property. Does that make sense? Because you can see here, display name ABAP solution, display name web access for SAP for ABAP, yeah, whatever, right? Okay, fine. Which means that we can very easily say what category. There we go. We've got category. So already we're sort of manipulating. Is there? Mark says, is there a I love MS Teams button left? No, I've used them all. I've got them on all my jackets. So sorry, Mark, I can't give any away because they're very precious to me. Thank you, Mark, for asking the question. There we go. So we've got a really nice way of reducing, first of all, these objects to something the only things we want really in the output. But then we can use the group by function or filter. Okay, let's do that. We can pipe that in. Just think of there's a concept of piping and a pipeline in JQ, which is very similar to the concept in the shell. Okay, so we can pipe that into, well, we can actually pipe that into length further. 177. I think in my previous repo there were 176 items, since in this particular actual metadata repo here there are now 177. Actually, does it say? Let's go into there, into metadata. Let's have a look. Does GitHub tell you how many files are in there? Developer? No. Anyway, 177 files. Yeah, in there. Right. Anyway, so length. But what we want to do is group by, and then we can say what we want to group by. Now, have a look at the difference. We can go up here and have a look, and we can see here that we've got not anymore an array of objects, but we've got an array of one or more arrays. Okay, so if we go down, look, these are all application. Oh, there we go. And then the array ends, the inner array, and then a new array with a couple of objects, environment, and then the array ends, that inner array ends, and then a new inner array starts with services, service, down to the bottom. So the group by will create arrays of the groups of things that we tell it to group by. So in fact, if we go down there and say length, what's that going to be? 3, right? Because we've got 3 inner arrays. Does that make sense? So now all we need to do, so V says, oh, you've got to drop off for the meeting. We'll rewatch offline later. Thanks, TJ, for this great session as always. You're welcome, V says. I'll see you soon. See you next week. So let's go back here. What else do we need to do? Get rid of that, and also remember, when you go back to the repo after this session finishes, and obviously this is the only thing you're going to read this weekend because it's clearly the most important thing ever, not. When you look at the actual JQ file, you'll see that we've got commented things here. So group the objects by the category to get an array of arrays of objects. That's what we've just done. And then we're going to map over those objects. Okay, just like we mapped over the original objects, we're going to map again and produce a new object with one single property and a value for that property. Okay, so let's go back here, group by category. Then we can say map. Well, actually, just to one thing I find in IJQ is that let's just get things working. Obviously, as you can see here, I'm halfway through typing something in IJQ and it's saying, well, that's wrong. Well, of course it's wrong because I'm not finished yet, but that's fine. So I like to sort of get to a good state. So I can just use the identity function, right? And that map identity function is just going to do the same thing. It's just going to map and produce the same thing, because the identity is whatever you've got, just give me that, right? So this, that is effectively like just spinning our wheels. We're not doing anything. So we can say, for example, tell you what, we can say map. We did here length. Got 3 because we've got 3 different inner arrays. One for services, one for application, one for service, and one for environment, right? But we could say map length, and now we're getting the length of the inner arrays. So the one with application, the array with application, has got 53 entries, 53 objects. So we can see that there are 53 different applications that you can subscribe to. Remember, the environment inner array had 2 entries, Kyma and Cloud Foundry. That's 2. And then the services, there are 122. And if you add those up, you get 177. Okay. So instead of that, obviously what we want to do is produce some sort of object. Okay, where we want where's the output? I want to show you what we're looking to do. Oh, shall we merge that? Shall we merge that? Yes, come on, let's merge it. Nobody's looking. Yes. There we go. You saw it here first. It's all my fault. Where are we? Oh yeah, here we go. What we're looking to produce. So Johnny says, sorry, I just joined in halfway. It seems like I could do the same thing with CSV file, right? You can. I mean, you wouldn't use JQ, of course, because it's not JSON. But you could, for example, produce CSV with JQ from this metadata if you wanted to do. We'll do that in a second, if I remember. So this is what we want. We want an object for each of the inner arrays. So for each of the group of applications, environments, and services, we want an object where the name of the single property is the actual category name, and then the value is a list of all the actual names. Okay, so let's do that. So map. Now, what do we have? We have in each of these, for every single one, we've got the category name, right? So we'll just take the first. Okay, the first one for each. So there's the first application one, there's the first environment one, there's the first service one. So we could say first, first.category. There we go. First is a function. Just give me the first one, right? First element, and give me the category property from that, assuming it's an object. But what we want is we want an object, don't we? So we'll put that in an object, but that's not going to work, right? So what we want to do is to say first category colon. Well, let's just put 1 for now, right? But that's also not going to work because that's a sort of a construct. We've got to put that in brackets there, right? So that's why we've got brackets there, okay? Because this has to be evaluated. We can't just have that as a raw string to be the property name, right? It's like, what is this? That's fine. So we put that in brackets to be evaluated. So we've got this bit, we got the first bit, but now we want an array of things, right? And how do we get the array of things? Well, you can see it here. We've already got the display name, right? So we can say map over the display names in those inner arrays, okay? And that's it, we've done it. So we go, have a look down there, go down, there we go. So we've got the 53, was it 53? The 53 applications, the 2 environments, and then the 122, whatever it was, services. Does that make sense? So yeah, in fact, how about let's take Johnny's example. Code completion in the IJQ would be great because I always forget the JQ syntax. Yes, it is. It does take a bit of practice, but generally code completion. I've never been a great fan of code completion because it prevents me from properly learning the syntax. I know it does, doesn't make sense to some people, but I like not having code completion, so I have to work harder to remember what the syntax is, which means I learn it better. I don't know, just the way my brain works, I guess. So why don't we? So here we go. Let's go down here. If we wanted to create a CSV file of this stuff, let's say we wanted a CSV file with, the technical ID and the category. So if we said, let's do it again. Map technical ID category. We're mapping over there and creating sort of an array of arrays. Okay, that's fine. But actually, what we want is to explode that. Okay, that again, this is JQ magic. This particular thing here will run the downstream filters for every item in that array, and then we can say, for example, use a form output at CSV. There we go. So that is a way of producing if you wanted to produce CSV, for example, you could do that. In fact, let's just press enter there and say JQ, because we want the raw output, don't we? JQ raw output. What was it? Cat. Oh, tell you what, it's up there, isn't it? There. JQ raw output, and then paste that in. Paste that in. And then what was it called? Inventory. There we go. We get CSV, just like that. So JQ is really powerful for not only transforming JSON to JSON, but transforming JSON into other formats, CSV, TSV, whatever. Anyway, it's that half hour went really fast. Let me know in the comments, before we finish, let me know in the comments, in the chat right now, not in the comments, in the chat right now, if this has been helpful. I'm definitely going to do another follow-up session, part 2, next week, because we're only just getting into, exploring this. We haven't even started exploring the individual metadata files in the developer directory, as in one for each, and we've got all sorts of examples. In fact, now, if I refresh that, now, where is it? We've got that Kyma availability that I just added. There we go. So maybe we'll look at that one next. Or maybe let me know in the comments if you prefer to do a little bit of JQ, but then also look at the JavaScript as well, because we've got a little bit of JavaScript here, slurp, which basically will give you a constant M that you can then explore in the Node.js REPL. Okay, a little bit like JQ. So yeah, let me know, and I wish you a good Friday, good weekend, and yeah, see you on this same time, same place, Friday next week. Again, let me know in the comments. Thank you, Helmut. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Johnny. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Bye for now.